All right, the diet starts tomorrow, but the podcast starts now. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you consume this show. I appreciate you so much. If you are not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do so on either side. If you're listening, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to pods, make sure you hit that follow button. And of course, on the video side on YouTube, Talking Buffalo, got our own YouTube channel. Subscribe, like this video, leave a comment. Those are the things that might sound silly, but they really do help shows like mine grow. Big shout out to our sponsors. Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, just on the way from Highmark Stadium. I talk about it all the time. That outdoor patio is just taking that bar to another level. It's not just a Lackawanna neighborhood dive bar by any means. This has become a destination place. People are coming from all over. The buzz is growing. People are going there. They're enjoying it. They're talking about it. And for good reason. One of my favorite spots in all of Western New York. And of course, so is Imperial Pizza, 2 locations, 1655 Main Street, just around the block or so from Canisius College. And of course, my personal favorite in the heart of South Buffalo, 1035 Aber Road. It's the home of the best lunch special in town. And I mean, I don't really need to say much more. You all know Imperial Pizza, one of the most popular and best pizza joints in all of not just Buffalo, but Western New York. All right, folks. So here's the deal. Training camp practice on Wednesday is over. It's the second last practice at St. John's Fisher. It has just literally flown by. I cannot believe that Thursday, most of you will be listening to this sometime on Thursday, that Thursday is the final practice already for St. John's Fisher, at least that portion of training camp. I'm going to have some observations and takeaways from that practice. I'll also spend a few minutes talking about the debut episode of HBO Hard Knocks with the Buffalo Bills. That was a lot of fun, plenty of anticipation, and I'll talk about some things that I liked about it. There was nothing I hated, but a couple things that I was, could have been a little bit better. Some areas for improvement, we'll call it, in a few bullet points and narratives that I think you're going to see going forward now that the first one is in the bag. So we'll get to that here in just a few. Obviously, I'm solo today, and, I make no secrets about it. I don't prefer doing these solo shows. I really don't. I've always considered myself, and the foundation of Talking Buffalo has been more about me being a conversationalist. I love having other guests on, and whether it's Bills, Sabres, media, life, music, art, whatever it may be, just holding court and having conversations. But this is the time of year, and especially right now during training camp, when it's tough, when you're doing 5 shows a week especially, it's very difficult to be able to get a guest every day. A lot of the media folk that I usually would draw from to have on this show, they're very busy right now. They're covering camp. Many of them are staying in a dorm room in Rochester. So it's not as easy as just being able to, jump in your home office and say, hey, man, can you pop on for 30, 40 minutes so we could, shoot the shit. So anyway, that's why there's been more of these. Plus, I want to have these episodes, which after tomorrow are done, where we're able to kind of have in the moment instant observations. And I want to do them shortly after the practices. That's what I've been doing throughout camp here and taping these as opposed to waiting later in the night and stuff like that. Plus, like I said, most of my media folk are busy. Although I did have the last 2 days on 2 really good guests. Mike Bunn from Trainwreck Sports joined me yesterday. I gave him some much-deserved flowers. And Matt Warren, of course, who joins me every week from SB Nation. He had a credential on Monday, so plenty to talk about. But for today, and I think tomorrow, there'll be solo shows. I will be at St. John Fisher for the final practice on Thursday. So my plan is to go there, observe practice, take some notes. I've probably am actually going to record a podcast right after, but instead of doing it at the facility, I've been enjoying myself at Pittsford Dairy. Best chocolate milkshakes, which, by the way, that place probably, you know what? I was going to say I might go to Pittsford Dairy and quietly tape Thursday's episode. However, after the shine that they got from HBO on Hard Knocks, it may not be so easy. But that's my plan anyway. I'm going to tape something Thursday afternoon after practice for Friday. And then I'm actually going to go, which, by the way, if you are going to camp or if you're in the Rochester area and you kind of want to party and celebrate the Anna Bills camp, Matt Perino and Ryan Talbot from Shout are going to be doing a live show at Dorado. It's at 690 Park Avenue, which I don't know my way around that area that well, but I do know I looked it up. It's like 10 minutes away from St. John Fisher. So if you want to check out practice, get some lunch, have a couple drinks. I know they're doing a live show at 5:30 on Thursday. I plan on being there to check that out, hang out with those guys a little bit, and then I'll head back to Buffalo. So that's the plan. A lot of other people have been asking about Joe from Queens, the guy who I have on every Sunday Night Live, Monday podcast. He has been nowhere to be found for the last couple weeks. That's by design, though. We call it a vacation. The reality is Joe absolutely despises training camp. He thinks everything about training camp is complete and utter bullshit, with the exception of injuries. He doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to hear me talk about it, and he refuses to do the show. He will be back, not this Saturday because he's actually on a legit vacation this weekend, but the following week, the Bills play at Chicago Sunday night preseason football. We'll be live right after the show, and Joe from Queens will be back. So at that point going forward, the Sunday night live shows, which have been very popular here on Talking Buffalo, especially on YouTube, those will be back. Not this weekend, but the weekend after, and certainly going forward with Joe from Queens. All right, let's dive into some of my personal, like I said, observations, my takeaways here from training camp on Wednesday. Some news before practice even started. Baylon Spector was waived, injury released, whatever you want to call it. Baylon Spector's time in Buffalo was almost certainly done now. He was cut. 2 days after a calf injury, not even 2 days, 2 days at the most. What was it? Monday? Today's Wednesday? Yeah, 2 days. I'll just say this. I'm not surprised at all. You could hear it in Sean McDermott's voice and Bobby Babbage and Brandon Beane this spring, before camp even started and into camp, that it was critical that this dude stay healthy. Like, I thought he looked pretty good in camp. And every time he was asked about, how Baylon Spector was looking, it kept coming back to health. And understandably so. This team, this organization has invested, not necessarily a lot of in terms of financial stuff, but they've invested in him plenty with Terrell Bernard out most of camp to this point. He's back now. We'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. But what I mean is they've invested in giving him opportunity after opportunity. And this summer, he was in what I thought was becoming a low-key, very interesting backup middle linebacker job to Terrell Bernard between Baylon Spector and Joe Andreessen. I thought that was shaping up to be a really good battle, and they both were doing plenty of good things, at least from what I saw at practice and from what I hear from others as well when I wasn't there. But, we also played a little bit of a weak side outside linebacker as well. So I thought personally that Baylon Spector was, quite frankly, having a pretty damn good camp. I know there were a couple shows here where I highlighted that. I talked about it. But then he got hurt yet again. And it was his calf yet again. I like Baylon Spector, man, but that's just what he does. It's just what happens. And this time, the Bills weren't waiting around. Now, maybe they have more information. In fact, not maybe. They certainly have more, injury information than we're privy to at this time, at least as of this recording. But my strong sense tells me this, you're hurt again. This is the last straw. We're not waiting around. they're cutting ties, and that's what they're doing. And I know a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it too. You kind of make the Baylon Spector always hurt jokes. So a lot of people laugh. Like when he got injured, you see on Twitter a quote tweet like LOL or something like that, or on Blue Sky, whatever. It's people laugh, but it's really sad. It's really sad. At the end of the day, man, these are world-class professional athletes with really good skill sets who, from the time they're little kids in Little Loop football, they work their ass off, man. They sacrifice so much. Their families, their close friends, they sacrifice a lot. It's just a big, big commitment for your entire youth and beyond to get to this point. And it's sad that there's guys like Baylon Spector where it's just his body, his DNA, his, I don't know, just tolerance for discomfort and joints. I don't know, what muscles, whatever it is. It just won't allow him to stay healthy. It's simple as that. And look, man, the dude was never going to be like Matt Milano. You know what I mean? And even when he was healthy, there were some moments, and I remember being on the field where I'm like, please get this guy off the field. But at the end of the day, Baylon Spector's been a capable, functionable, rosterable, dare say pretty solid depth player with some pretty good special teams ability. And if it weren't for the injuries, he could have been here for years to come. So it's just really sad. You know, we can make all the injury jokes we want about players like Baylon Spector, but when you look at it from the human element, how hard I'm sure he's worked for so long, for so many years. And again, all the commitment and the sacrifice to just constantly get hurt. And now ultimately it sure appears like the Bills just said enough is enough and we're giving up on you. And it's sad. It really is. As for the guy that he was vying to be the primary backup for, Terrell Bernard, not anything special about what happened on the field Wednesday with him, but who cares? The important thing is Terrell Bernard is fully back from the hamstring that he hurt right at the beginning of camp that has had him sidelined. He was out there for everything. Individual drills, team drills. I think this is the first time that he's played full speed team drills alongside Matt Milano this training camp. So him being out there is a very big deal. I mean, ideally, with the Bills linebackers, Bernard and Milano both healthy, that's one of your better tandems in the NFL, and I don't think anybody would dispute that. Look, Terrell Bernard, if you want to talk about somebody and his significance, his importance, he was one of just 2 captains last year, literally. So you know the Bills consider him a leader and somebody who is immensely important to the success of this football team. Now, obviously, again, very talented, a really good playmaking middle linebacker, and he was rewarded this offseason. He got a really nice, handsome 4-year extension. And if I'm being honest with you, though, I thought Terrell Bernard was pretty good last year, but by the standard that he set, I don't think he was as good last year as he was in 2023, where splash play was his middle name. He emerged as a guy who, during training camp 2 years ago, we said, what in God's name is Brandon Beane doing? You let Tremaine Edmonds walk. You don't draft anybody. You don't really sign anybody. Are we literally going to have a Terrell Bernard versus Tyrell Dodson middle linebacker competition at camp? Like, what are we doing here? And then Bernard gets hurt during the preseason and doesn't even play. But yet he still starts in week 1. You could say it's because the Bills really saw something in him, if you want to give them a lot of credit. Or you could say he won that by default because Tyrell Dodson wasn't it. Anyway, doesn't matter. But that year, He emerged as, a playmaking machine. 6.5 sacks he had in 2023. He only had one last year. 3 fumble recoveries in 2023. He only had one last year. Just more impact 2 years ago than he did last season. Now, that's not, there's some reasons for that, of course. He missed time. I think he went on IR. He missed 3 or 4 games. I know that for sure last year with an injury. So, I don't know, man. He missed time last year. He missed time at camp this year. So you want to see him on the field. And by the way, so we're clear too. All right, I want to be really clear about this. He didn't make as many splashy plays last year as he did 2 years ago. He had literally the play of the game in the AFC divisional round when Mark Andrews caught a pass in the middle and Terrell Bernard stripped him of the football. That was one of maybe the biggest play of that entire playoff football game. So it's not like the guy didn't do anything last year. Though, again, if you want to turn it around and you want to hear me be objective, Terrell Bernard, like many other guys on that defense, were helpless, if not completely radio silent in Arrowhead in that AFC Championship game. I thought Terrell Bernard was terrible in that game. Just like Greg Rizzo, just like A.J. Epinesa, and a lot of other guys that you really needed to be able to depend on. Anyway, whatever. I'm getting off track here. It's a very encouraging sign that he's back, and I doubt that you'll see much of any Terrell Bernard in the preseason, which, I mean, let's be honest, who gives a shit? What do you need to see from Terrell Bernard in the preseason? Absolutely nothing. Just stay healthy, dude. Anyway, let's take a real quick break, come back, and I'll get to some more takeaways. And again, thoughts on HBO Hard Knocks, Buffalo Bills premiere. All right, we are back here, and I am talking about some Buffalo Bills takeaways from their second last practice at St. John's Fisher. I said it at the top. I'll say it again. I can't believe that is pretty much over already. In some ways, it's almost like for people who are married, it's almost like a wedding where you spend so much time thinking about it and planning for it. In some cases, you're getting tickets. If you don't live in Rochester, you're whether it's taking off work to make the trip. Maybe in some cases, like I've done twice, you stay in a hotel because you're there for multiple days. You're just making all these arrangements for something, and you've been planning for so long, just like with a wedding, and then blink your eyes, bam, it's gone. It feels like that's the way that St. John's Fisher in training camp has gone already. And by the way, I'll save some St. John's thoughts here for the end. Let's continue on. Keon Coleman. This is a guy we probably talk about every day, whether it's Talking Buffalo or pretty much I can guarantee you any podcast, Bills podcast, that you watch or listen to. He is a polarizing figure, without question. And I'm going to say this, and there's been days where he's been lights out. There's been other days like, Keon Coleman was, and I'm telling you now, confidently I'll predict this in August, early August. Keon Coleman was and will continue to be a very frustrating player for you. Because the talent and the ability to make big plays is absolutely there. And we've seen it. Not just in camp. We've seen it last year and in the regular season as well in moments. Splash plays, big plays, impactful plays. He can make tough contested catches. He can high point the ball over somebody. He can take a short pass. He can run after the catch. He can... In fact, he's really, really good at improvising routes. Once Josh Allen ends up getting on the move, he improvises routes, finds seams, gets open. He does tremendous work when it comes to stuff like that. But the problem is the dude just drops too many goddamn easy passes. That's the problem with Keon Coleman. The drops, the focus, the attention to the little details, whatever you want to call it. The ball is hitting the ground way too often on easier passes when it hits his hands. At camp on Wednesday, and I'll give you a tale of two plays why, it's like Jekyll and Hyde with Keon Coleman. If both these plays happen here at practice, the second last one on Wednesday, it's like, well, which version of Keon Coleman are you going to get on any given play? You want to do bad news or good news first? Let's do the bad news first, okay? There's a play, and I think Mike Rose from the Batavia News, a video of it, perfect video. Keon Coleman, these are during individual drills. He doesn't even have a DB draped over his back. Literally, it's him running. He does a quick slant in about 10, 15 yards. Josh throws a perfect ball, again, completely uncontested, hits him in his hands, and the ball goes sailing right through his hands. Drops the ball. It's like, how do you not make that catch in the NFL? 10 out of 10 times. Or 99 out of 100 times at least. Right through his hands. I'm like, we saw Friday at the blue and red scrimmage. 2 balls right through his hands. You got to make those catches, right? You see it all the time in Keon. You almost never see it with Khalil Shakir. I've not seen it yet with Josh Palmer. Say what you want about Curtis Samuel, and again, his ability to stay healthy or whatever, but Curtis Samuel's not out there dropping passes, especially uncontested ones in practice. Keon does it a lot more than he should. But on the other side, later on in practice, Josh Allen, who, by the way, you got to give Josh because he made pretty much a perfect throw on a fade. And Keon wins a tough rep for a red zone touchdown against Christian Benford, one of the best defenders in the NFL. Like, that's the maddening part right now about Keon Coleman. You win this tough rep against Christian Benford, you make a tough catch, perfect throw from Josh Allen, contested for a touchdown, and then you're dropping balls in individual drills where there's not a defender within 10 yards of you. It's just, I don't know what the answer is. It's one of those, maybe you just got to live with it. That's what it's going to be. That's what you're going to have to live with. You are going to have to be prepared to take the good with the bad. He's going to make a big play. He's going to bully somebody like he did in Seattle for a touchdown. He's going to take a 4th and 5 short pass, make somebody miss, and it's going to become a long touchdown like he did against Houston. Or he's going to have a ball go off his helmet on a quick slant because the focus isn't there. Or he's going to have a ball sail right through his hands like I saw at practice on Wednesday, like we saw at the scrimmage on Friday, like we see way too much, frankly. Just, I don't know. I don't know how you make somebody lock in any more than he should be locked in already. I don't know what it is. Because he's got good hands. He makes tough catches. He just drops too many easy balls. It's just, again, it's frustrating. You're going to get the whole Keon Coleman experience. And we've talked about on the show yesterday and probably days before that as well. I think the best thing you could hope for realistically with Keon Coleman is, if you think he's going to become Lab McConkey, he's not. Forget that. You got to hope that the things he does well, the contested catches, the run after catch, the improvised scramble drills plays that he makes with Josh Allen, those things, you just got to hope that he does them more often or often enough so that it will offset or make up for the occasional, and hopefully not in a big spot, to drop when he's wide open over the middle of the field. It just drops the ball. I don't know. But again, the highs and the lows of Keon Coleman, one of the most polarizing players on this team, they absolutely continue. Another second-year player, young player, important player. I think that this is getting frustrating. Cole Bishop. He missed another practice on Wednesday. This is his 5th since exiting the field last Tuesday with what was reported as a quad injury. He left on Tuesday last week. I was there. He left on Tuesday, went with trainers into the locker room, came back with his helmet on, but never got back in the drills. And I'm like, all right, well, it's a good sign that he's back and that he's not staying in the locker room, that he came back out and that he had his helmet on. Like he was ready to go back out there, even though he didn't. I'm like, precautionary, fine. Well, fast forward 5 practices later and he's still not out there. I am at the point almost officially, if not already there, I'm real close, where I'm concerned about Cole Bishop right now. I'm concerned about the safety position right now. And maybe, who cares about what I think? You could say that. That's fair. But I think I'd be willing to bet some green here, man. I'd be willing to throw down a couple bucks that Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich are pretty concerned about Cole Bishop in the safety position as well. The Bills seem to have a lot. And I can't say this by comparison because, when you don't follow 31 other teams around the league, I can't tell you how many injuries other teams have right now. I can't tell you how many guys on 31 other teams have been injured over the last 12 to 18 months multiple times, that have been out for, extended periods multiple times. I don't have a basis of comparison around the league, but it certainly feels like the Bills have a lot of players that feel a bit or maybe a lot more injury prone. Baylon Spector, who's no longer a Buffalo Bill. Of course, Curtis Samuel, who's pretty much missed all training camp with a hamstring injury. Dorian Williams has been hurt a handful of times already in his career. Teron Johnson, one of the best nickel slots in the entire NFL, literally an all-pro a couple years ago. He gets hurt a lot. He plays with a reckless abandon. He makes big plays, very physical. He's basically a third linebacker, but he's undersized. He gets hurt, and that's part of the deal with him. You just got to accept that. He probably ain't going to play 17 games. He's going to miss a game or two. You hope that, and that's the most. But anyway, he gets hurt a lot. Terrell Bernard's been kind of getting banged up multiple times a little bit. Matt Milano, obviously, major injuries. Trey White, obviously, major injuries. Well, guess what? I think you could officially add Cole Bishop to this list. I don't know the extent of where he's at right now with his quad, but I'm telling you, unlike some other starters, and some of them I just ran off, Teron Johnson, Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, those dudes could get hurt every 2 months, and when they come back, they're starting. That's it. They're plugged right back in, right? I don't know. I'm not sure that Cole Bishop that's going to be the case with him. Like, if Cole Bishop doesn't get back real soon, I think we're approaching, or at least we're getting close to approaching Damar Hamlin taking that starting spot back for 2025 due to just being dependable. Dependable matters. And it should matter, to be fair, too. Sean McDermott's not being unreasonable here. The best abilities, availability. Well, and Damar was, by the way, he was hurt last year, too, so maybe I shouldn't sing his praises all that much, but I don't know, man. It's about dependability, and Cole Bishop now for a second straight summer is missing valuable time, valuable reps. I kind of feel like, although he took strides, like he, by all reports, had a good spring, the communication was there, made some good plays early in camp too at safety. I wouldn't say he was a camp standout before his quad injury, but I thought he was looking like a starter. And for a second straight year, he's missing valuable reps. And I think to some level, Sean McDermott probably still considers him, in some ways at least, like kind of a rookie. So I don't know how it's going to play out with Cole Bishop, but unlike some of these other guys where it's like, just get back before the season, we know what you could do. Like Spencer Brown, who's working his way back now. You already know what Spencer Brown is. You know what he could do. If he's healthy, he's ready to go, he's playing. End of story. I don't think Cole Bishop can afford to keep missing practices because I do think at some point, Sean McDermott's just going to say, screw it. At least I know what I got with Damar Hamlin and I trust him. We'll see how that plays out. James Cook, third straight hold-in practice for James Cook. I don't really have much to add about that other than it remains a mystery. Why? Is he close to a deal and he's playing it cautious, worried about getting hurt as they get near the finish line of a contract? Or are they not really close? Is James Cook really frustrated? Does he think that he showed up to camp on time and participated fully for the first week? Did he do that in good faith? And it's going nowhere, and now he is ready to stand on his own business, like he said during the offseason many times. Honestly, I'm not worried about him missing practice right now. In fact, I don't give a shit. He's in shape. He knows the system. He'll be ready to play. He's an electric player, and I stand by that. People want to downplay the skill set and the ability and what he brings to the table because there's some Bills fans out there who are already bracing themselves for the worst case scenario with James Cook. That's nonsense. When he's out there, the Bills are a better football team and they're a way better offense. It's as simple as that. So I don't worry about any of him missing practice. He'll be good to go. I also don't worry about him actually missing games and subsequently missing game checks because the dude himself cannot be more clear. He ain't trying to lose money. He showed up at minicamp just so he didn't get fined, okay? And he participated. Now, what I do worry about, in the interest of being completely honest how I feel to all of you listening to this show, is I'm concerned about James Cook making a business decision to what his level of commitment to this football team is going to be. And concerned about him being less than his best or his willingness to play through something that's nagging if there isn't some kind of movement that happens here soon. But anyway, that's another talk for another day soon enough. I do like that the Karen Williams deal with the Rams is done, and that's out there now. 3 years, $33 million, $11 million per year, $23 million guaranteed. When it comes to James Cook, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. I'd be surprised if it wasn't a little bit more, because that's kind of usually how it goes. Somebody kind of sets the bar and it continues to go up a little more at a time. But that's got to be at least the bar. It's got to be close to the bar for James Cook. It has to be. 3 years, $33 million, $11 million, or I'm sorry, $11 million per, $23 million guaranteed. I'm not going to get into, not today anyway, like a player comparison between the two, who's better, whose stats are better. You know, there's arguments to be made both ways. All right, so I'm not going to get into that shit today, but I think it's very safe to say that while they are different players who kind of bring somewhat different things to the table or do certain things better than the other, I think they're pretty close in value, financial value. So we've been spending a lot of time, and I mean a lot of time, wondering about how much money James Cook is worth. What contracts are out there do you say, you know what, this feels like a contract that James Cook deserves? And it wasn't, he wanted Barkley money, Henry money. That shit ain't happening. And if he still wants that after this Karen Williams contract, I don't know what to tell you, because it ain't going to happen. Or it ain't going to happen in Buffalo. Let's just put it that way. But if we've been wondering, if I said 3 years, between $34.5 million to $36 million. So say between 11 and a half to 12 million per year, and Kyron got 23. Let's say Cook gets 25 million guaranteed. So 3 years, let's even go to the max. 3 years, 36 million. So 12 million, $1 million per year more, and $2 million over the course of 3 years guaranteed. You signing up for that? I'm asking. Let me know. Would you sign up for that? 3 years, 36 with 25 guaranteed. I would offer, if I'm Brandon Beane, I would offer that. I think it's worth it. And if he does, and it's offered to James Cook, and he still says no, well, then we got a big problem, because based on what Williams got, Cook's not worth more. And I still say a trade is highly, highly unlikely, but never say never. If Brandon Beane determines that a disgruntled James Cook is going to become a detriment to the season potentially, on or off the field, he could end up being forced to pull that trigger. The GMs around the league trade players that they really don't want to trade because of reasons beyond their control all the time. So I don't think it's likely, but I also wouldn't rule it out. A few little nuggets quickly from practice on Wednesday. Again, second to last practice too. Really good day for Dalton Kincaid, who minus that one knee scare where he missed a day of practice and had a sleeve on for it, but then he was back the next day. Minus that day, man, he's had the type of camp that you would hope for. And the highlight on Wednesday, Josh Allen rolled out to his right, and he found Kincaid, who beat Cam Lewis for a gorgeous would-be 20-yard something touchdown. So while Keon Coleman has been very, I guess, inconsistent, highest of highs, lowest of lows, Kincaid has been pretty solid and getting better. That connection, that chemistry seems to be improving every time they're out there. So there's really good news in the Bills passing game. Dorian Strong, he's been improving. Now, I think the talk, and I've said this on the show plenty of times over the last week, I think the talk about him already being good is way overhyped. Like, he might be ready to start if need be. I really don't see that right now. I've seen him get beat plenty since the start of camp. But there is improvement. There is improvement. He is getting better. He had an interception today. I think it was off Mitch Trubisky. So, good news for him. He's making this team. He's making this team. He's a special teams guy. He'll be a core 4 special teams guy. He'll be active on game day. I guess best case scenario, he plays himself into a position where if either Benford or Trey White have to lead the game, that you could go to Dorian Strong. I still think that's probably Dane Jackson's spot, at least for now. But anyway, good sign for Dorian Strong on Wednesday. Dad Brown, really good reporter, TV reporter on Rochester. He pointed out he thinks this is the best practice that the top of the roster has had this entire summer. Pointed it out, and he's right. Usually when you go to training camp, you really look at that bottom 20 to 25 guys on the roster who aren't really necessarily a lock, or even if they're a lock to make the team, you don't know where they're going to fall in the depth chart, and you really focus on them. And he talked about Josh Allen and Kincaid and Spencer Brown and Greg Rizzo and Joey Bosa, who, by the way, played a lot on Wednesday, a lot of reps, and he was out there all 3 downs is a really good example. So like Dad said, a really good practice for the top of the roster. And I feel like I say this like literally every single day. Last point for today anyway. Another impressive outing for Matt Milano. The only negative thing I'm feeling about Matt Milano right now is we're at the end of at least a portion of training camp that non-accredited media members or fans can see with their own eyes on a day-to-day basis. The only negative thing I'm going to say about Matt Milano is if he stays healthy all year and if he looks in the regular season like he looks at training camp, the Buffalo Bills may rue the day where they basically tore out Matt Milano's contract to save money for this year, voided, and made it this year his final year. Like, I know he's up there in age, but he looks like a guy, if he's ready to be 2022 Matt Milano all over again, he's not done getting paid. Not only is he not done playing football after this year, Matt Milano's not done getting paid because I think, personally, other than maybe Josh Allen, and you should almost disqualify Josh Allen when it comes to these conversations, but with just 1 day left in training camp, if you were to pick the MVP of 2025 Buffalo Bills training camp, I think you can make an incredibly strong case that it's Matt Milano. Great camp for Matt Milano. All right, let's finish up real quick here with HBO Hard Knocks. It did premiere on Tuesday night. I tell you, I stayed off social media, which is not an easy thing for me to do. I was at work and then I was busy. I did not get a chance to watch it until about 11:30, a good 2.5 hours or so after it originally aired. So I literally stayed off Twitter, Blue Sky, Facebook, IG, all that stuff until I got a chance to watch it. And I was hyped to watch it, like all of you, I'm sure too. Like, I was thinking about it all day. I could not wait to watch this and see what it would be all about. In terms of, well, and we'll do this for each episode, and this will be brief. I'm not going to do entire shows or even long segments on this, but I'll bring up what I liked most about it, and then what I liked least about it, and then what I foresee happening with the next episode. In terms of what I loved, I thought it was the right people to feature primarily in episode 1. The players that I think are the most endearing, not just to this fan base, but for people who are watching who don't know the Buffalo Bills, that will come off as endearing to fans all over. Josh Allen, of course, Deion Dawkins, Trey White, those three. A little bit of Dawson Knox, more so at the beginning, but not so much after that. But primarily Josh, Dawkins, Trey. I think before camp started, we would all have agreed that those are probably the three guys, the veterans, that they'll focus the most on, and they did. It's not a secret. Another day I loved it. It's not a secret for us in Buffalo, of course, but for people around the world, it was a really good glimpse into the type of character, the type of person Josh Allen is. We know the competitor. We know it. Everybody knows the competitor. You don't have to be a Buffalo Bills fan or even a Josh Allen fan to know how absurdly competitive this guy is, how good he is. We all know that already. But the other side of Josh, the way he speaks, the way he conducts himself, the way he is with fans, again, it's just so endearing. And also is a kind of a real glimpse to how funny Josh Allen can be when he's in his element. And his element is the football field, okay? Like from the zingers that he had, though, the one-liners during practice. There was one where he was running across, calling everybody doctor, 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 doctor. And then he told Conor McGovern, I love you. I mean, the clear blue sky. There was that. They didn't really show it on HBO Hard Knocks, but the handshakes he has with his teammates. And I thought maybe low-key, one of the funniest, maybe the funniest line from the entire first episode was when they were at the blue and red scrimmage and the rookie tight end, Jackson Hawes, caught a short touchdown and he took the ball and the fans were cheering. He took the ball and he chucked it into the stands. And Josh Allen said something along the lines of, hey, wait, what? We need that ball. He said, we need that ball right after Jackson Hawes scored. I thought that was freaking hilarious. Yeah, Josh Allen, just a dude you're on a root for. That was funny. The KJ Hamler scooter, which everyone's been talking about all of Wednesday on social media. That shit was hilarious. So was Teron Johnson being savvy enough to have his own toilet paper, thicker, better toilet paper instead of dorm room toilet paper. That was funny. Benford and Trey White going to Pittsford Dairy and getting all those Sundays for the fans and calling them Trey Day Sundays. That was awesome stuff too. By the way, quick little side note. I love the fact that they highlighted Pittsford Dairy, except for one reason. But I love it because when I just was at camp for 4 days last week, I went and I stayed in a hotel and I went to Pittsford Dairy every single day. Got a chocolate milkshake too. I could mix it up. There's a million different things I like, but I'm a guy who likes to go for the same shit over and over and over. So I kept getting a chocolate milkshake every day. Anyway, I say except for one thing because I planned on going there after practice on Thursday, today for most of you listening to this, again, to get some shade and to record Talking Buffalo for Friday there. But I'm starting to think that there might be a lot of people. I bet you the publicity that HBO gave them, especially with Thursday being the last day of camp, that place is going to be like a madhouse afterwards. But anyway, cool for them, and that was really cool to see. Oh, I also love that I learned something that I didn't know beforehand. That stadium tour that Josh Allen and Terry Bagula are on with workers there, like little stadium science talk, that there's going to be no real wind in the stadium. Even if it's windy around, the way they got, the physics of it all, the wind is not going to be a factor in that stadium. And they were talking about in certain situations where if it was across the street, the swirly wind would be a big problem. It's not going to be there, man. And I'll tell you what, we usually bash Terry Bagula if you're a Sabres fan anyway, but it's funny stuff from Terry Bagula, man. He definitely had a bigger role, a speaking role than I anticipated, and he showed some personality. So a lot to love there. And then last but not least, I thought they did a really great, not just good, but great job of making St. John Fisher and Pittsford, that area, just look pristine, which it really is. It is a beautiful, beautiful small town. And that got me thinking, going to training camp for somebody like, say, me, and I live in West Seneca, it's an hour and 20 minutes from my house to the stadium when I go there. That's a long-ass drive where there's a part of me that's like, man, I wish they were like most other teams and they had training camp somewhere in Orchard Park or whatever. It's a 15-minute drive. fact, Highmark Stadium's 10 minutes from my house. But, I enjoy St. John Fisher, and I've enjoyed going there so much over the last, say, 2 years that I hope they keep it at St. John Fisher. Even though it's a difference of between 10 minutes and an hour and a half drive, I still hope they continue to keep it at St. John Fisher because it really is a beautiful, quaint, small town. Love it, love it, love it. What I didn't love, not a lot, AJ Epinesa, just none against him, but that freaking snake, 11-foot boa constrictor or whatever the hell around him, that shit made me cringe, man. I'm horrified of snakes. I lived in Florida, and if I saw a snake that was more than 18 inches, I would piss myself. That shit would have me so freaked out. So, hell no. Deion Dawkins, now, while it was cute, so this is kind of a 50-50 here, having his kids, by the way, oh my God, his kids and his fiance, absolutely awesome, man, adorable, doing the family stuff on the day off. That was really, really cool. But the car drifting, man, that shit, it had me like weirdly nervous. It must be safe. He's got his kids in there. He's not going to put his kids in harm's way. That shit looked a little, I don't know, kind of had me a little bit uneasy. Like if I'm Brandon Beane and I'm watching that, I'm like, I don't know that I like Deion Dawkins doing that. What I didn't like, and especially as somebody who's been watching, not all of them, but I've watched most of the HBO Hard Knocks' previous seasons, no real in-depth profiling on any long shots to make the team. Like usually it's your stars, and then you got a couple guys who are, whether they're mid-round picks, whether they're undrafted free agents, guys with a long shot to make the team. Nothing in this episode anyway. Like, Keontae Jenkins is an undrafted linebacker, and maybe he's got a chance to make this team. I'd love to learn more about him. Then there's guys, lots of roster bubble guys who are fighting to keep their spot. Jamarcus Ingram, perfect kid, perfect story. Kid from UB, he's been in the league now for a couple of years, did some good things with the Bills, but he's in a dogfight to make this team right now. So guys like that, I would love beyond just the stars and, the household names, so to speak. I was a little disappointed that they didn't have any. I was expecting to have a couple guys on this team that I know little or nothing about that I would learn more about during the show, but that never really happened. And the other thing too is I was looking forward when it comes to James Cook. Now, he started missing practice on Sunday, and this dropped Tuesday night. I would think by the time they already decided what the directions were they were going to go, and, some of the big narratives and the editing and all that stuff, that they probably already had their plan by the time James Cook started holding in. But anyway, even before that, I was really looking forward to seeing James Cook interactions. Like, I know he's not going to talk. He don't talk really to the media much at all. But I'm talking about, I wanted to see more James Cook interactions with his team, his teammates. Stuff like that would have been great. Forget about the holdout stuff, because I know that's coming. More on that in just a second. But show him on the sidelines. I want to see him messing around with Ty Johnson or Josh or whatever, one of the offensive linemen, just talking some shit. I would have liked to have seen a little more form of personality from James Cook, and we really didn't get any of that at all. It kind of leads to another thing. I felt like the Bills have, based on this first episode at least, maybe a little too much creative control. Like, this felt like almost a slightly souped up version of Embedded, to be honest. Now, I know the Bills are a pretty dull team, and I mean that in a good way, but like, some things just were hidden. Like in the Kansas City game when the Bills lost and they showed the dejection, Josh Allen had to scramble, throw the pass on 4th down, and that's it. They lose. Like, why did they not show Dalton Kincaid drop the football? Felt like that was a significant part of that play. Should have been shown. Alec Anderson got tossed from practice early in camp for a cheap shot on a defensive end. I can't remember who it is. He's not with the team anymore. I remember that. Hayden Harris. Anyway, Sean threw toss his ass. Why is that not shown? Trey White, who, look, he's earned it in terms of he's looked fantastic during most of camp. He's a great personality, and he's looked really, really good on the field. But he has not been perfect on the field. He got cooked on a bomb by undrafted free agent Steven Gosno. Like, why was that not shown? And I know that HBO was filming that because I was 15 yards or so south of it, and I watched Trey White with boom mics on him going up and down the sidelines, being really animated about getting beat or what happened on that play. In fact, I was willing to bet that that was going to make Hard Knocks, and it didn't. So some negative things that didn't make the final cut. Little surprised about. To wrap up here, as I'm completely losing my voice. What do I think episode 2 is going to be about? Well, I already mentioned James Cook. That Holden's got to be the big story. So I expect to see plenty of James Cook. Hopefully, by the time this airs on Tuesday, there will be a good resolution to it. So we're going to get that for sure. Maybe some Joey Bosa. There was just one reference to him, and it was kind of like Bobby Babbage, like telling him, not just him, but they showed him, like, don't touch number 17. That was pretty much all you got from Joey Bosa. He's their big ticket free agent, one of the bigger names around the league. I would suspect we'll get some storytelling with him. Of course, training camp ending and returning to Buffalo. That'll be a big story. And then the preseason game, last but not least. They play the Giants on Saturday afternoon, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of stories, good and bad, to come for that. So that's what I would expect for this second episode. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this very much longer than I anticipated episode. But you know what, dude? It's the second last practice of camp. Got a lot of shit to talk about. Thursday is the last one. And again, I will be there. I will have my own observations. If I get an opportunity to grab one of my media people, sit them down, and we'll have a discussion about it. But one way or the other, you'll get my final training camp observations on tomorrow's show. Also going to have, now that training camp and St. John Fisher will be over, I've waited to do this. Tomorrow, I will have a quick 53-man roster projection based on training camp. And we'll see what happens there. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, for listening. Subscribe, follow if you're not already. Appreciate you guys very much. Talk to you tomorrow.